principle of psychological first aid is helping people regain a sense of control. During a natural disaster, it's normal to feel like the world's kind of chaotic. And one of the things that we can do to help combat that chaos is to help students and staff have a sense of control in the world around them. How do we do that? Well, we know that during a natural disaster that anxiety will run high and there might be some bad days. So one of the things that we can do is plan for those bad days by creating a self-care plan. A self-care plan takes your relationships, your best regulation tools, and things that you use to feel better and puts them down in a plan that you can use for those bad days. It is just as necessary as when we run fire drills or tornado drills. This is a plan so that when you do have a bad day, and you probably will eventually, that you have your best self planning for those moments so you don't get overwhelmed by an emotional reaction. So you have a go-to guide of what you can do. So I'm going to switch over to the computer and I'm going to show you how to create a self-care plan with students and staff and how they can utilize it during those moments of distress and how you can utilize it to help them. Here's the self-care plan that I utilize with my students. This could be done with students or staff members. Now, first thing you want to do is make a copy of this and then share it with other people. Once you share it, up here, the word edit, you can change that to the word copy, C-O-P-Y. And when the person opens the document after you've shared it and you've changed that word, when you copy the link, it will force them to make a copy of the document. That way they're not editing on your original. Now, with the self-care plan, it starts up here with listing coping tools that you use for certain areas of your life, like relaxation, trying to stay calm, self-talk, social support, mood, and resilience for when you face failure and you need to bounce back. Some coping tools are better than others. That's one of the reasons it says helpful and hurtful. For an example, let's say, someone took my favorite pen and I start screaming about it and I feel better, but at the same time, the people around me start to feel sad because I was screaming. That might be one you want to try to avoid. So it has you list all of your coping tools for those different areas. Then page 2 is daily self-care. Instead of being reactive, it's really good to be proactive with self-care. So coming up with a daily self-care plan for your physical, emotional, school/work, social, and psychological realms is really important. When you take care of yourself every day, it sort of mitigates any stress that builds up, and it also helps you have less stress overall. So daily self-care, this is something where you just list what you do in these different realms every day. And then afterwards, it's really good to allow students and staff members to share what practices they use, because over here, there might be practices they want to try. Like someone might share, oh, I do yoga. And I'll say, that's something that I'm interested in trying. Plus, it shows them you can always get better at self-care and taking care of yourself. It shows that big growth mindset that, lets people know you can always get better. Then, this last page is the critical page. First, it has the person list what daily self-care plans they're going to be committing to for the body, mind, social, emotions, and school and work. Then, underneath that, it has them list daily problems or stressors that they face. Like, for example, I know in the morning, my mornings can be chaotic with my children running around. So one of the things that I've listed here is taking a few minutes to wake up 5 to 10 minutes earlier so I can feel less chaos and be more organized for my own children. So that's listed here to kind of mitigate stressors that you may have in your everyday life that you think of. Then The last part is your emergency self-care plan. So you go up to page 1 and you look at those coping tools that you use and you list 5 practices that you could use to kind of decompress in a moment of anxiety or a stressful situation. Then you make a list of resources available to you and people in the school/community that you can turn to for help. Like, for example, you might list the school guidance counselor, or you might say, hey, I could call my brother, or I could call my friend Jessica. You would list that here. So when you are overwhelmed and you may not be thinking clearly, you have a plan in place that you know you can go to. It's also really important that you share this with someone else. That way they have it. And I might see that my friend Jessica likes to color when she's feeling overwhelmed. So I might give her a coloring book, because adult coloring books can be so much fun, and that can help her because that's one of her coping tools. So by sharing what we use to cope, we can also strengthen each other as a community by looking at how we can make each other feel better based off of our own personal preference. So that's basically a self-care plan. Feel free to make a copy of mine and feel free to use this to help mitigate anxiety that you might face throughout the year.